We have our guest from Siteimprove to talk more about measuring the performance of websites. This is Travis Vermeulen. He is a Principal Customer Service Manager from Siteimprove, and we're so glad that he could join us all the way from Minnesota. Thank you, Travis. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Yen. And everybody, excited to be able to help present. We've already done some talking on Siteimprove, so we can definitely continue on. So with that, I can just take it over and then being able to go through. But quick insight, I know, hopefully you know about Siteimprove. Obviously, we've been talking about it. Just a little heads up, we are a Danish company. We were formed in 2003, working with the Danish government. We started out as a link checker. So we were going through just checking websites for if you had broken links and inventorying that data. We've obviously expanded out. We've talked about our DCI, website analytics, and today we're going to be going through a lot of that information. So with the agenda today, I want to go in a deeper dive into what the actual digital certainty index is, letting you know about Siteimprove. We, as Nikhil mentioned, we are measuring off of different government websites for the industry average. We have over 7,000 customers worldwide, and then we also are able to scan, spider, crawl, public-facing websites too, prospect websites too, and add that into our score. So the digital certainty index is going to be a roll-up of different modules within the Siteimprove platform, and it's going to be a great way to benchmark. Before diving in further, I just want to align and let people know how we're collecting this data. So I mentioned crawl, scan, spidering of your website. We're able to go through, similar to how a search engine would, as a robot, and inventory all of your content on your public-facing websites. We then overlay our information and then spit out those easy-to-use scores out of 100 and tell you how are you doing at this point in time, and then how are you doing over time. So being able to look at that history, being able to see and present to different stakeholders, say here's where we are today, here's the goals that we're working towards, and then here's the reduction of errors, the increase of traffic, the increase of submissions. So I wanted to let you know about that. We're going to dive in further, and we're also going to go through web analytics, understanding a user journey. How does someone navigate your website? A lot of resources and time are put into a website, put into making sure that people can access the proper information. One of the questions that Nikhil got earlier was, is it a transactional website? So we'll go into that, or is it informational? And then also I wanted to show you what does it look like in our platform? So being able to give you some just quick screenshots. So with that, I'm going to go over to the next slide and looking at this digital certainty index. So this is going to be providing you a roll-up of your quality assurance, your SEO, search engine optimization, and your accessibility guidelines. So quality assurance, we'll dive into what the details are, but think of high level, broken links, misspellings, inventory of all of your content, how much it's updated. SEO, how well can Google, Bing, Yahoo, Baidu, Yandex, all those search engines index your content? You want to make sure that people can find your websites. You already have a lot of authority having the .gov domain, and a lot of, again, going back, a lot of time is spent putting up this information, and you are the authority on this. So you do get some of that rating, but you want to make sure that it's easily read by a search engine. And then the accessibility score. We mentioned the WCAG 2.0 guidelines, section 508, a lot of fun acronyms within website accessibility. You hear ADA compliance. What does it all mean? Siteimprove, as an automated checker, as a robot, is able to come in and index as much as we can as an automated checker, and then give you a quick score on where are you failing, and then where are you actually compliant, and being able to look at the work. So with that, we have over 200 checks that we're able to weight and then roll into our digital certainty index score. And it's just a simple weighting system, and then it rolls into that average of a DCI, and you get that one number to be able to track over time. You know what, how well am I doing? Letting you know too, there's already been some questions of, well, how do I get into the platform? Is my site scanned? Definitely follow up with the team. We want to be able to cover you. We're able to scan public-facing sites, being able to go with that. And again, unlimited users. So have a lot of opportunity to learn from our system, being able to get information that's important just to your website. quick pause. I have something to talk about what Kelly just mentioned, but also nice to meet everybody. Realize I gave just a real quick introduction, but I'm up here in Minneapolis, so it sounds like you're having a much nicer day than we are. Sunny and cold, but it's not snowing, so I'll take it. But with that, I wanted to let you know about the consistency. GTA has done a ton of work over the past couple of years of getting that consistency. As a principal customer success manager, I work with a lot of states that covering their whole state at the enterprise, similar to what we're doing with Georgia. I also work with a lot of federal agencies. Within the federal realm, they're past the 21st Century IDEA Act that is mandating by legislation consistency and quality of both website accessibility, overall site usability, and then just that consistent feel that if I'm on a federal website, do I know I'm on a federal website? And that goes back to what GTA and Georgia is doing, having that security consistency. There's a lot of private information, form submittals that are being placed on the websites, even just informational. Am I getting this information from the authority? So knowing that Georgia's already taken those steps, I just wanted to say that it's great to see, and it's part of the working with other states. It is further along in the maturity process. I know Nikhil mentioned in his presentation that you are one of the first states to go ahead with this type of process, and it's where the industry is moving. So just knowing that it has been a lot of work, even being able to take time out, it's very important work though, and just try and always put yourself in that end user. As employees of the state, you're still using other agencies and departments, and it's nice to know what website am I on. So just another plug of, it's awesome to see, and it's where it's being mandated at the federal level, and it is a huge lift of resources, time, and money. But again, a lot of work has already been done for it. All right, so being able to have a first look. I imagine a lot of people haven't seen this before. If they have, it could have been a demo, or another one of your coworkers have been in the platform. But what we're looking at is an in-depth view of the state of Georgia and their digital certainty index within the Siteimprove platform. So this was taken last week. I know we have the goal of 80, and that's where we're at right now. So that's awesome. With that, I don't want to say, great, we're at 80, we don't have to do anything, because your website's going to be changing every day. New content's going to be added that turns into, hey, we have an accessible website as of April 28th, 2020. Well, then we just uploaded a new image and we didn't put alt text on that image. Siteimprove is going to be able to help identify that for you and flag it, but that's just going along with, it's a moving bar. So we try not to dangle that carrot and say, hey, you're never going to get to 100 and you're never going to get to 80. It can be done, but it's not a project. Think of it like a process to be able to go through and make sure that this is just getting into your web standards. Something that has been drilled into people over the course of a decade is just website security. And that's where overall web governance is going to come in. A lot of times this isn't anyone's full-time job. It's, hey, you have 20 responsibilities and you have 10% of the time to manage the website. So that's something, working with leadership, knowing that how much time it goes into creating a quality website and maintaining the accessibility standards for Section 508, the overall usability guidelines and security practices. It is a process. So the DCI, again, as I mentioned, it's the quality assurance, the accessibility, and the SEO portion. These are the crawl portions of your system. Later today, we're going to be diving into the weeds on what can we actually do in each one of those modules, but it's that crawl, scan, spidering of your website. I'm using those all interchangeably. Part of this conversation is about analytics, and that is a different function in how we're collecting that data. So looking at what rolls into the DCI, what rolls into the quality assurance score. Again, it's all out of 100, and being able to look at these score details and having each one have a weight. Being a crawler, we're able to find so much information just looking at the fun development, HTML, the code of your website. There is a ton of information in the back end that's been done. So we are able to pull in, how many links do you have on your website versus how many broken links are on your website. You get an easy, quick to read ratio. Similar idea with misspellings. How many words do I have on my website versus how many of those words are misspelled and flagged. Content freshness, being able to determine, hey, there's images, there's documents out there, your pages are identified when they're updated. So how old is your content? So again, there's going to be, depending on the state agency, depending on the information we're looking at, you may say, well, that was an agricultural study. We're not going to go back to 2005 and redo a study that's already been proven. So just knowing that some things may not need to be updated every day, but you still have the idea of, we want to make sure that we're not having stale content out there, because that again goes into the security aspect of it and a lot of the resources that are put in. Within this module, we do have information that we partner and link into additional resources, such as Google's API. Google having the ability and trying to index every website on the world, they have a list of malicious websites, phishing websites, potentially harmful websites. And I see this happen in the public space, the private space. You let that domain or that host expire, what was once a quality website you were linking out to, someone bought it up and now put on a phishing scam or malware on it. So you want to know on your website if you're linking out to it. So we are able to roll in some of that security information. Along with this, we are able to find some private information. Hopefully we never find it, but you'd rather know before anyone else does. If we find any social security numbers on the website, any credit card information, being able to pull into private information, not necessarily private, but email addresses, names, phone numbers, where is that on the website, and roll it all in here. And then that final bullet of that user experience, that is more on site navigation. So do you have a website where you can click in 20 pages deep before you find any content? How easy is the navigation and the linking back to your homepage? Again, so many people are trying to navigate through a very specific bit of information. If you can't find it in a couple clicks, that could be a problem. So some of the details, which again, all of this information will exist, this presentation will be available afterwards. Diving into the actual content quality and the details on the next slide, it's going to give you the weighting and the priority of what role to score. So a lot of the things I already talked about. I thought it was a more interesting slide to see the scores, the graphs change over time to be able to pull through, but knowing that we have all this support material. It is a Siteimprove construct that we created, so it's something that we didn't pull from another resource on the web. Siteimprove has this information, and we pulled this in. So we're always investigating this, and it is, again, you have your benchmark in place on what you want to work off of. Diving right into the SEO one on the next slide, talked about this being, we're a crawler. That's what Google is, that's what other search engines are. So being built as a crawler, we're able to easily identify where we're having issues scanning your website, and knowing, and with our data scientists, knowing what Google and the other search engines are doing to help rank your website, we're able to flag or specified checks alone within the SEO module. We're able to flag where there's potential issues. Again, show you where you're doing things right. So get a list of everything that we're checking for that may not be a potential issue. And just going back to, there is a ton of data insight in Siteimprove. There's a ton of information out here. Looking at the approach as a whole, fixing something in quality assurance is going to impact your SEO. It's going to impact your accessibility, overall site usability. So they're all interconnected, and trying not to silo everything out and just going back to a process. But a lot of work has already been done. Even going down to that mobile, more and more people are navigating to a website via a cell phone, via their tablet. They're not always online. They're in the DMV trying to look up what forms do they need and do they do that. So making sure that the website's responsive, tying it into accessibility. Can I zoom in? If I'm on my cell phone, can I actually zoom in, do that pinch, take a look and easily get this information? Does it reset out any issues? And tie that back into quality assurance and accessibility. What type of documents do I have? If I click on a document, how does that open up in my browser, navigation? So having all of this content out here is a lot of information, but we will try and display it and go into the weeds later today on, all right, this is great information, but what do I do with it? Give me an action item. Give me something that I need to direct someone to do, but knowing that you have that score and it can roll all the way up. So moving to accessibility, this is something where it's similar idea with the Siteimprove scoring, but I want to stress on this one. Siteimprove is not creating the accessibility standards. We are partner of the W3C, Worldwide Web Consortium, that creates the WCAG 2.0, which is actually now updated to 2.1, so Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. We partner a part of this to help be an advocate on how these rules should be interpreted. With this DCI score, this accessibility score, we are overlaying our checks on top of those guidelines. So we're not creating our own guidelines for this. We're able to present what are these different attributes and how do they impact your website. With this, I wanted to let people know with the audience, the W3C has a current project going on right now called the Web Conformance Testing Project. And this is setting the standard for how any automated checker should check a website for accessibility. And when I say automated, I mean crawler, spider. So as we're coming in and being able to check for the automation, that's where we are working on a project with them, a few other private companies, and then think of organizations such as the UN and the EU to help write these standards. So Siteimprove is going to be updating the platform coming later this summer, and it's setting that standard for how any automated checker should check a website. And having the audience I have today, it's going to be an easy fit as you're talking, well, I have someone new on my team and they used a plugin that wasn't Siteimprove and they're giving me different results. Well, it should be an easy ask. Are they following the automated conformance testing guidelines? Yes. Hopefully every other system can too, because that's going to be an easy fix there. But knowing that it all rolls up, and here's what we currently have for our accessibility score: pages with a low error rate, warnings and errors, and the accessibility score. A lot of work has been done, and whether you have access today or you get access tomorrow, you may see that slow. It could be around 50, it could be around 60. Knowing that a lot of work has been done, but with this scoring and pages with a low error rate, think of something that could be more template or theme-based that may need GTA's help as they're spinning up these websites. That could be an issue on every single page. We're always trying to investigate how accurate of a reflection of an overall website accessibility this is displaying. So just knowing too that it could be something that I use the term easy all the time, and I full well know that easy is relative. You may know how to do the technical fix, but do you have access to that part of the website? It may be a difficult fix, but it could impact all 1,000 pages of your 1,000-page website. So you don't actually have to touch all 1,000 pages to fix one error, having that roll up. So with all of this, Nico also mentioned, we're able to give you an idea of how we're doing in comparison to the industry. So moving to the industry benchmark, again, over 7,000 customers worldwide. Being able to hover that dot when you're in our platform, you're able to see, well, where are we within this industry? So we have city, county, state, and federal in the US all wrapped up into the one benchmark. So we have segmented out government, something that I can follow up with afterwards, but if you're just interested or curious in, well, how are people around the world doing in other sectors? We want to compare ourselves to the financial services sector or the IT sector. How are we doing? Accessibilityworldmap.com is a website that Siteimprove created that allows you to do some further investigation on what is the industry looking like outside of government. You're able to get couple additional tools specifically for website accessibility. And then you're also able to see legislation across not only the US and individual states, but legislation across the world on website accessibility. So with the industry benchmark, again, a lot of information is being able to pull in here. And the stat that I have, I know I've mentioned 7,000 customers worldwide. We have over 6,000 government websites that we're indexing, and that's not including all of our prospective websites. Someone that may not be a customer, you're still able to scan their public-facing website, index that information, and give that benchmark. It is a pretty holistic view of what's happening around the world and what's happening around the US within here. Knowing all this information, it's going to be something up to GTA, but when you log in, you should have the view of just what you're responsible for. So eliminating a lot of the noise from other department agencies where you may say, you know what, not that I don't care, but it's a lot of noise and I don't need to see everyone. So your view within our platform, within the login, you should be able to look at just what you're responsible for. So quick summarize the overall DCI, Digital Certainty Index. It is a Siteimprove construct, and we are trying to give you a picture of clarity and transparency on how everything rolls up. We have additional documentation in our platform. Hopefully this wasn't too long-winded for you to go through each one of those modules, but being able to help you goals, we already have that 80 goal mark, being able to see what's happened over time, and trying to give you a rating. So as I talked about an item, so I get into the platform, what should I fix right away? That's where Siteimprove can help guide you, and we try and guide you right in the platform based on a point system to show you what would improve that score the quickest. Because it is all about priority. I always take it back to website. Yes, it may be one person's full-time responsibility, but it could be just a piece of that. It could be just a piece of overall web content quality. They may be developing other websites. So knowing that we want to make this information valuable, and you want it right away with high level of priority. So with that, I've been talking a ton about our crawler, our spider, scanner as we're coming through, and that's all about the DCI. George contract with us for is website analytics. So we have enterprise coverage of your website, and it's going to be using the two components, the DCI and the web analytics, to help you improve and make sure you have a quality website and people are taking the steps that they need. They're interacting on your web page. All those time and resources that are going into making this quality website is meeting the goals for your end users and your organization. So it's important to try and anticipate experiencing, but it's equally important to monitor and actually measure how visitors are engaging on your website. That's where we have a full suite of tools that are really going to highlight behavior, user behavior on your website, talking about visualization tools as heat maps. So where is someone's mouse on your website? Where are they scrolling on your page? How far down are they getting? Where are the impediments where, you know, we thought this was very visible? Well, no one's clicking, and that's why no one's signing up for this newsletter or navigating to the or to another portal to log in. So using the DCI score to be able to interpret, all right, where are my issues on the quality side, and then use analytics to determine, are people having trouble getting to this information? What are the other additional roadblocks? Being able to measure the outcomes. So web analytics can be considered an inside-out look that measure a website and how it's performing when it comes to your organizational goals. So it's giving you, again, because everybody loves data and you can get needs and give me another sheet. And what we've tried to do is give you an easy to look, feel, and to guide information to you as soon as possible. Everything that I'm talking about today and everything that will be talked about, you're going to be able to export out of our platform into an automated report saying, you know what, I may not be in the weeds every day. I want to know about this information. I want my team or staff to be able to work, but I just need to know once a month, quarter, over progress, what's been happening. You can get information without having to be a daily. So thinking about web analytics specifically, that I wanted to pull in is measurement is the first step that leads to control and eventually to improve. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you can't improve it. So I mean, this is something that just resonates with me and our analytics here at Siteimprove is you need to be able to know what you don't know, and that's what analytics are going to do. Because so many times I get on a call and any questions, and it's silence. And part of that is it's an introduction to our platform, it's an introduction to a new topic and industry, and you don't know what you don't know yet. So how do I ask a question on? I don't even know what to ask. And that's where having the information and the data, knowing your website and organizational goals, that can be the best starting point to start asking these questions. And yes, you don't want to use the data to make sure that you're making sure your argument is correct or right. You want to use the data to keep asking those questions. So all of this, just diving into the question. So what do we do to improve? That's going to be step one. What do I do to improve? We're providing a ton of information out there. So whether your website is transactional, when I say transactional, think I go online to pay my taxes, I'm using an online portal to file for unemployment, I'm paying my vehicle registry, or I want to book a campsite. I want to be able to do this all online. It's easy. It can save time and resources instead of having to go to an actual office. Or if my website's informational, I'm providing education materials. It's something that's mandated by legislation where I need to put out this material. I don't need anyone to actually contact us, submit a form, but I'm mandated that I need this information out there. Well, then you need to make sure that people can find it. You want to tie it back into SEO. You want people to find it via the search engine or your website, so they're not going out to a blog and getting inaccurate information. Again, you're the authority on the majority of this information. So having the idea of transactional, informational, website analytics, and overall web content quality is important no matter what type of website you have. And the first question you should be asking, and it ties into the question that was asked to Nico earlier, what do I do? What should my website be? Should it follow my organizational goals, or is it separate? My website is its own goal. And that's something where, again, the political answer of it depends. Think DNR. Am I trying to book a campsite, or am I trying to provide information about a disease for trees? What's going on about there? So again, having that idea and trying to find that balance of what is my actual goal of the website, because that's going to bring us to what we track. What does success look like on my website with the website analytics? And this is, if anyone's familiar with Google Analytics, it's goals, key metrics, pull this information in. So your key metrics, again, when I use key metrics, think of it as your goal of your website. You want something that relates directly to your organization and your business goals for this specific resource. So taking it out of government, e-commerce site, they're easy. Are my sales increasing? You'd have that as a key metric. Page views, visitors, being able to just say, sweet, I had 1,000 people land on my website, and I normally have 950 people land on my website. Well, that's great, but was the goal of your website to increase traffic, to provide more information to them? So you want to actually dive in further. I want to know how many people are hitting my website, because what does that actually do? And then knowing the accuracy, making sure it's not bots. So someone spamming your website and being able to give you inaccurate data. So looking at just page views, though interesting and it's easy metric to look at a quick glance, I would not call that a key metric, because it's not giving you any additional insight into my website. What are they doing? Are they getting information that they need? Other examples for key metrics, how many applications have been submitted? Are people logging into an employee portal? So I'm getting X amount of traffic, and it turns out that it's all employees that are just getting into our employee portal. Newsletters, signups for other events, being able to try and track this against, we really are investing a lot into our website. We're trying to not have as many people in the office for this specific resource where they have to come in. I always go back, easy example is DMV. Do I need to have people come in, wait the X amount of time to complete a specific task, or can they fill this out online? That's where you can track how many online submissions did we get versus how many people actually came in to complete it. So setting the targets. Another example, we have a newsletter, 100 people signed up for June. Okay, trying to determine, is that good or is that bad? Were we expecting 100 people? So this is where it can really open up a can of worms, but having that idea of these goals of what is my website doing? Do I have any historical information where I can know, all right, I want to improve this, or if the metrics that I'm getting is bad? So again, having a newsletter sign up is one of the easiest examples to be able to determine, I expected 50 people and I got 100. Well, do I have the wrong target then? Do I have that wrong key metric that I'm trying to measure? So I always bring it back to, why does my website exist? It's something that I'm talking with analytics consultants, both internally and externally. So you don't have to be your data-driven, in the weeds analytics guru to try and answer that question. That's where you bring in, if you need, and you have the resources to be able to measure your bring in that analytics consultant. But that simple, and I use simple in quotes. I know no one can see me anymore, but simple, why do I have a website? So that's going to lead you into, what do I need to track? What should I be tracking? And being able to capture this in Siteimprove. So with the next one, it's just some quick insights into what does it actually look like in Siteimprove. So I used one of our universities that has these key metrics into these goals of the site with a few simple inputs. Those are those triggers out here. So just 2 simple triggers. On this first one, there's 2 different ways to submit an admissions form. Being able to track that with those 2 examples, we're then able to then provide you a progress graph. How many people are doing this? You're able to set a goal to be able to see, are we over or under? That can help you allocate the resources to make that determination of, this goal is unrealistic, we need to change our strategy, or this goal is realistic, we're doing well. And I can now easily project this, whether I'm an end user in the weeds with this data, or I'm a stakeholder at the governor's office that just wants to be able to have a quick metric. A lot of this information, our system will do for you. So I wanted to put this one in here just because I think it's an example. With a small amount of work, you can get really detailed and really informational data on what's happening with our website and where can we be spending time and resources. Logging to the next page, another in-view look at that platform, something that I've been working with Georgia, with other states and other organizations, being able to track these live analytics. As new websites are spun up for COVID-19, well, how many people are online right now? Where are they coming from? Are we having any issues with our network? So you're able to get these live analytics right in the platform, and then dive further in the left-hand navigation, being able to get into the weeds with your page views, which again, a nice metric, but not necessarily a goal, into visitor behavior, campaign tracking, talking with the GETA team. Analytics is a big field. There's a lot of information that can be tracked. So knowing too that you have the support of Siteimprove Academy for your users, you have the ability to reach back out, and we can set up time with Siteimprove, someone on customer success team like myself, to be able to walk through these metrics. But you have emails that are sent out. We're not your email service center, but are people opening those up? What type of data are you getting from those emails? Again, so I just want to stress, we're not the email provider. We're not going to be doing that. But if a little bit of input, once they come in from that email, we're able to track what did they do across the website. So again, a lot of information. This is just more high level, live analytics, and some of the information that you can pull. So something simple too, being able to track metrics over time. Visits, page views, unique visitors, return visitors, what was happening last year, being able to look at these types of metrics. So again, being able to get high level and in the weeds, and something that I wanted to just show you, all of this information you can get via an email. So you don't have to go today and say, oh, that was cool, but it's not gonna be my responsibility to log into Siteimprove. That's completely understandable. You can get this information right in an email, being able to track it over time, and then help dedicate the resources that are needed to be able to make those organizational changes. Something that should be looked at, because we want to talk about behavior. So looking at how did someone enter my website and what was the journey that they took. So on the next slide, we have the ability that ties really into the overall DCI, quality of a website. How did someone enter my website? And then what did they do? A lot of this we can see, this was taken from last week. They entered by going directly to georgia.gov, and then they went off and they either ended their visit or they jumped out to the COVID website. Not surprising with everything that's happening right now. But again, knowing that we want to be able to, in analytics, view how people are interacting on our website, so then we can make those changes to navigation, being able to help confirm what we had set up, and knowing that a lot of this information exists out here. So behavior tracking, can be really good and really into the weeds, but something that I put in here without wanting to get too much into point and clicks of everything, because I think it's very important to know that this type of information exists, and it's information that you should be looking at as you are investigating. I have a website out there. How are people actually finding us? And then what is their path through our website? All right, the last one that I had that I really wanted to highlight was just other visualization type of information you can get in Siteimprove. And these are what we call behavior maps. These are heat maps, click maps, and scroll maps. This is how is someone actually interacting on my web page. So what we have up here are interactions. So is someone scrolling? Are they hovering over certain areas? What links are they clicking on? This is the actual user interaction of a web page. We're not trying to track with this type of information individuals. We're trying to track in aggregate how everyone is navigating. And what you can do with this type of information, I have a screenshot of a responsive website in a mobile view that has what we call the menu item, really highlighted, getting a lot of hits. That's because people are clicking on it. What you can get with this type of information though, and knowing, hey, I have a responsive website, that meaning that I can look at it desktop or on my phone and it's going to resize to fit. Knowing where is my content being displayed on the different types of screens, different size screens. So you can know, are people actually scrolling down on the page where we have the governor's Twitter feed? Or is that hidden? And that was an objective to have on everybody's page. It was supposed to be highly visible. You're able to view that type of information. So I did a lot of rapid fire talking. I do want to open it up for questions though, and this is where I just want to stress, I'm an expert in the Siteimprove platform. This could be really quick introduction of some of the information that we're going to be able to display for you. Later today, we're going to get into the weeds, but hopefully you found today's session on Siteimprove beneficial with the DCI, and then knowing that we have this web analytics too that are going to be able to show user interaction. But I am more than open to any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, Travis. Yes, we have a number of questions. The one that we got the most of is, how frequently is the DCI score updated for each site?
Great question, because I didn't touch on that, so no one missed anything. So we update that DCI on a weekly basis. And to give you the long-winded answer, which something I'm working on, I'm trying to be more concise, but we are crawling, scanning your websites on a weekly basis. So we go through, we refresh and we'll look at all of that content every week. And then we'll update that DCI at the completion of that scan crawl. So it's on a weekly basis when we do that.
Okay. So the crawls happen once a week, and then that informs the DCI score. Okay, fantastic.
And to go on with that, we're crawling each site individually. So one site may crawl on a Monday, knowing that we can do some customization, but yep, we crawl the website, we run all of the information, do all the computing on the back end, and then we'll refresh it within the Siteimprove platform.
Fantastic. Okay, and another set of questions that we got, or just because there's so much to learn here, is how do they learn more about Siteimprove? And while we at ESGA will be providing some trainings, I know there's an academy, and I was wondering if you could speak to that, to the Siteimprove Academy that's on the site itself.
Yep. So one of the first steps is going to be getting access to our platform. So that's going to open up a lot of help center resources, a lot of webinars to you. We don't gate a lot of our material. So I do want to preface that if you're not a user, it's not going to be the end of the world, but knowing that you have unlimited users, a part of your account and your workflow. But that is where in our help center we have webinars, we have guides to be able to walk you through what I'm excited about is I like looking at a screenshot and I like looking at some quick text so I know exactly what to do. So we have all different types of learning paths. So we have that type of information. But as Yen mentioned, we have a Siteimprove Academy. It is heavily focused on website accessibility, and that is largely user driven. We know a lot of people are now on board. They've spent 2017, 2018, 2019 learning about it and then figuring out, okay, this is something that I need to do. It's being mandated. And now what we're hearing is most people they're on board. They know that they want an accessible website. They know they need to. So within our academy, you have access to additional, we call them learning paths, but not necessarily, well, both. We have both industry specific courses where you can learn about, I'm a web content editor. How do I address certain accessibility features? But also, I want to learn the Siteimprove platform. I want to be an expert in here, and there's a lot of information. So how do I do that? We do have academy courses specifically tying in how do I navigate Siteimprove. So that's, again, kind of a long-winded answer to say we have a lot of resources available once you are a user, and then being able to get in a lot of different learning paths.
Our final question we have is about the industry benchmark. And you had mentioned earlier in your presentation about a site that you could go to. Is that a site that you could share with us later and that we can share with everyone so that they can see just what they're being compared against?
Yes. So it is Accessibility World Map. I said .com. It's actually, it's .org.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Travis. We really appreciate you joining us today and presenting this very important information. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, everybody. I hope it was beneficial.